Hello. So I was thinking about something and I thought it was kind of funny and I wanted to record it so I don't forget it. Because sometimes I have these thoughts and they slip away from me so quickly. I'm just like, shoot. I verbalized it so well in my head. I'm not going to do that here, but I'm going to try my best under the circumstances. So, yesterday I saw Broken Arrow for the first time in years. Like I hadn't seen Broken Arrow in a long time, and it's one of my I don't want to say it's one of my favorite action movies because it's not. It's definitely one of my favorite villainous performances from John Travolta. And in fact, I think that was the very first movie I ever saw with John Travolta as the bad guy, and I thought he was so funny, so deliciously evil in that movie. And you know, I'm sure that also inspired roles like, you know, Face Off and Swordfish and things like that. Like he's so freaking good in that movie. And I remember seeing Delroy Lindo in that movie, and he's playing this army dude, you know, at base, and when the plane crashes, he lets out a "oh shit" that's so forced and ridiculous. It almost seems like he's trying to be a bad actor, and I know he's not. Delroy Lindo's a great actor, but he has certain roles in certain movies that really don't highlight him as a great actor. They highlight his ridiculousness. And in Broken Arrow, he's got a moment where he's looking at the computer screen. He's like, "Oh shit!" And the way he says it, it's too funny. And then it got me thinking about his other role in Congo, where he plays like some weird, like, you know, African warlord or something. And Tim Curry is eating his sesame cakes, and he tells him, "Stop eating my sesame cake." And then Tim Curry's looking at him like, "What?" And then he yells at him, "Stop eating my sesame cake." And then he stops eating the cake. By the way, Congo is a bad movie. And then it got me thinking about Congo. And then I was thinking about my friend. Well, I don't know if he's my friend now because we've lost touch, you know. We've moved on to different things. But my friend Mark Garcia, wonderful artist, wonderful playwright, wonderful dude altogether. And he admitted that, you know, he has a guilty pleasure. And his favorite bad movie is Congo. And it got me thinking, like, wow, we all have like a bad movie that's like we all have a favorite bad movie that we absolutely enjoy. Even though we know it's bad, we still love, you know, what that movie is. Oh, nope. Okay, you're gonna have to stay right there. So it got me thinking about Congo, and then I started thinking, what's my favorite bad movie? And I'm like, there's a couple of bad movies that I really love. You know, like I love Skyline. Skyline did not get a lot of good reviews, but man, I love that movie. I love the music. I love the imagery, the aliens, and I love the idea of the hero dying, becoming an alien, and still being the hero. Like it's kind of cool. And the movie doesn't end with the ending of the film. Unfortunately, the franchise for Skyline got worse and worse, and I watched it too because I wanted to see where this was going because I really loved the first one, and it never got better. It never got better. But that's besides the point. But I started thinking, like, what is my favorite bad movie of all time? And I think it has to be, without a doubt, Daylight. And Daylight stars Sylvester Stallone, I think in 95 or 94 or 93, something like that. And it's a story of this, you know, ex-EMS worker who is now a cab driver because he's a disgraced EMS worker. And he gets called into duty once more because there is a terrible explosion in the Lincoln Tunnel in New York City. No, in the Holland Tunnel. And the tunnel is sealed from the explosion on both ends, and there are survivors in the tunnel. So his job is to get inside there, find a way for him and the survivors to get out and be a hero. Now, I remember when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I'm just like, oh man, I'm gonna love, like I just knew I was gonna love this movie. I got very excited. And at the time, I hadn't seen the movie yet. I remember my mom was in the hospital for something. She was in the hospital for something, or my dad was in the hospital for something. It was one of them. And I was waiting in the waiting room, and in the TV, in the waiting room, there was a movie critic talking about Daylight, and he was giving his, his opinion, his critique on Daylight. And he's just trashing the movie. He's really, really going in at how bad this movie is, how terribly acted it is, how over the top the acting is, how terrible some of the action sequences are, and how ridiculous they are. And he uses clips from the movie to make his point, which every critic does. But then he does something real clever at the end of his review, where he looks in the camera and he says, would I recommend this movie? And then he cuts to Sylvester Stallone in the movie, and he's looking at one of the other actors, and he's like, no. And I just started busting out laughing, because I thought it was such a really, really clever review. And even though I did not like what he said, because I wanted to love the movie. I hadn't seen it yet, but I was going to see it, and I know I wanted to love it. And this guy was trash talking. So me and my brother, we went to go see this movie, and we went by ourselves. We were given permission. I was old enough to be able to walk by myself, and therefore I was old enough to also take my brother with me. So me and him, we walked to the movie theater, Cross Bay 1 in Ozone Park, Queens, and we saw the movie, and we loved it. We loved the movie. And at the end of the movie, we were running home, because at the end of the movie, it was pouring rain outside. So the actors in the film are all drenched in water, because the ocean is, pouring into the tunnel, and they're wet and they're cold, and we're running home 10 blocks in the cold, rain, trying to survive. So it was just this really cool moment for me and my brother, and this movie. So it's a whole connection. It's a whole vibe that brings everything together for me when it comes to this film. Now, I was definitely able to recognize all of the negative critiques that the critic said about the movie. Like, everything he said about the movie was correct. But man, I still love that movie. I had such a great time watching it. I recognized how cheesy and corny it was at times. But for some reason, I really loved it. I love the action sequences. I love the fire. This was at a time where I was not, you didn't see a lot of CGI fire. This was the beginning of CGI fire in movies. In movies, usually fire was all practical. It was never computer generated. And after this, this was during the time of Independence Day and Jurassic Park and Terminator 2, and movies were coming out with more and better CGI, really, really convincing. And I thought the fire in Daylight in that tunnel looked so cool, but I did think it was, it did not look real. It was CGI, but it was such a cool CGI. It was something I hadn't seen before. And I just really love the movie. But there are things about the movie that I can't let go, and it doesn't take away from my love for the movie at all. But I remember later on when I saw a making of the film, and Rob Cohen was talking about why he was inspired, or how he was inspired to make this movie. And he talked about a particular incident where there was some sort of devastation. I can't remember if it was a highway accident, a bunch of cars crashed, or something on a bridge, but he saw all the people. This is how he tells the story, and it's not verbatim, this is just me paraphrasing, but he tells the story of observing all of these EMT, firefighters, police officers, first responders coming to a scene of horrific tragedy and doing whatever they could to help the people around them. In his mind, he was witnessing true heroes, in the flesh, not asking for thank yous, barely making any money, but going in an area and saving people that need to be saved, helping people that need to be helped with no regard for their own safety. And he said he wanted to make a movie that highlighted that. Well, so he makes Daylight. Now, I gotta say this. I think, this is just my opinion, if that's what he was trying to highlight, then he failed. Because the movie does not feel like a realistic depiction of an awful sort of a terrorist-like event, a tragedy, an accident that people, you know, are stuck in and someone has to come save them, or a group of people have to come save them. I never got any of that. What I got was the main two stars of the movie was the fire in the tunnel, the explosion that creates this whole travesty, and Sylvester Stallone. Now, Sylvester Stallone is the lone man that has to go into the tunnel. Mind you, this tunnel is sealed from both ends, and this guy still finds a way to get inside to save these people. And it's just hilarious when you talk about it out loud, because Sylvester Stallone's character, his name is Kit, by the way, like, which is a stupid fucking name for a hero. Kit Latura. Like, I've never met any fucking Italian whose first name was Kit. Okay, so right away it's bullshit, right? And secondly, the guy goes in, he's got no crew. There's nobody else going in. This doesn't seem to be like a sanctioned event by the local government, by the police, by the local authorities. This is kind of like a hush-hush mission where he's got to go in and try to save these people. He doesn't have an exit plan. He has no fucking exit plan, but he has an entrance plan that is practically a suicide mission. But of course, because he's the star of the movie and he's Sylvester Stallone, there's not a single moment where you're in the theater thinking, oh man, I don't know if he's gonna make it. There's never a moment where you think, he might not survive this. Nah, you know he's gonna survive, you know he's gonna make it, and you're just waiting for him to take his shirt off. And that's one thing I'll give the movie, is that in the entire film, Sylvester Stallone never takes his shirt off, and this was probably the first time that ever happened at that point in his career. At that point in his career, he had been labeled a action star sex symbol. So in every movie, he was wet and he was naked. But in this movie, he's wet. We got that covered, but he's completely covered from neck to toe. You know, like you don't see any of his muscles, you don't see any of that. None of that is highlighted. They try to make him appear as a regular person. However, the feats that he's able to accomplish while trying to save these people are nothing short of superheroics, okay? This guy is a super fucking hero, okay? And the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm like, damn, this is the greatest EMT man that ever lived. How the hell did he get fired? Well, they tell the story very briefly that he was a guy that was in charge of a bunch of people that was going into some situation where they had to rescue a bunch of people, and it turned out that that situation was not a good idea, and his team was killed. Like a lot of people, or all, I can't remember, but his team was killed, he survived, and he took the blame for it, and he was fired, and he was disgraced, and you know, he hates himself. And the funny thing is, he's not an alcoholic, he just becomes a taxi cab driver. That's it, that's all. And he's filled with insecurities, but at the same time, this man that's filled with insecurities got no problem putting on a vest and jumping into a situation where he's got to walk through giant windmill fans and get sucked in the in the sewers, get his face almost sucked off, and save these guys, climb ladders, like hang off of a waterfall, run away from a barreling tanker that's coming after him. I mean, this guy's fucking the man. Like, there's no way, like, if you just saw this and didn't know what he did before, you would think, when did he ever fail? This is the most heroic human being I've ever seen in my life. And the performances in the movie, here's the funny thing. The performances in the movie are incredibly over the top and not in a good way. The movie never feels like a real event. It never feels like a real thing that's actually happening to these people. It feels like a movie. It feels like a popcorn entertainment disaster flick. It never feels like these people are actually really in danger. Which is ironic that I'm saying that, because throughout the course of the film, many people die. Many people are killed throughout this whole ordeal. I mean, all the people, the majority of the people in that tunnel die from the explosion. And the survivors, let's say there's let's say 12 people. Out of the 12 survivors in the entire tunnel, 8 of them make it out of there, So there's a good number of people that die trying to survive. And even through that, you're watching the movie and you're just thinking, man, this movie's crazy. But you're not thinking, wow, that's awful, that person passed. I'm so sad. He was a real person. No. You still feel like you're watching a movie, like you're watching a production. And the music is great. The cinematography is really good. The performances, even though they're over the top, some of these actors, they really, really try to give every ounce of legitimacy to their roles. Some of them succeed, some of them don't. And some of them are really good actors in their own right, but for some reason can't really bring out a good acting performance in this movie. And this was another one of those movies that led me to that theory that Rob Cohen, the director of the film, is not a good actor's director. Rob Cohen is a good director in terms of scope, in terms of telling an exciting story, giving you an exciting visual. But in terms of directing actors, I never thought Rob Cohen was a good actor's director. The only way Rob Cohen had any good actors in any of his movies, what I mean is, let me rephrase that. The only reason Rob Cohen had any good acting in his films is because that particular actor or actors were so good that they were able to go beyond his terrible direction. Mind you, I'm not saying, Rob Cohen is a really cool director when it comes to making cool movies. He's the guy that did, Dragonheart. He did the first Fast and Furious. He did Stealth. He makes some really cool looking movies, but the performances are always cheesy, corny, and definitely eventful. Meaning, you're watching an event type movie. You're watching a popcorn flick. So, but after watching that movie after so many years, and then recently seeing it past Father's Day, I wanted to give the movie another chance, and I did that thing that people do where they watch a movie and they're hoping that their mind gets changed. And then you start to justify certain things that you see in the film, and you justify the bad acting by saying, you know what? If I was in that situation, how would I react? Would I know exactly what to say and say it correctly and sound rational? Or would I be ridiculously cartoony and freak out the way these people are? And it got me thinking, I think, who knows? I think maybe I would not be rational and I would just make the situation worse. I probably would lose my mind, So I watched the movie with that in mind, and I watched certain performances and certain reactions, and more than not every single one, but more than not, the majority of the scenes that I thought were cheesy and corny and ridiculously overacted, now I'm seeing it in a different light and thinking, damn, man, you know what? I think I probably would behave like this person, or that person's behavior makes sense. Where you going, nigga? Whoa, where the fuck is everybody go? Okay, go, nigga, go. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Yo, these people are stupid. I'm gonna go this way. Can't deal with these stupid people. Sorry. A couple of cars just tried to drive right in front of me. And I do apologize for the profanity. I don't like to talk that way, but sometimes it just pops out. But yeah, so when I recently saw Daylight, I started to justify some of the terrible performances, and it made sense to me, you know, like. But yeah, I still make fun of things about that movie, even though I love it. You know, there's a particular scene in the movie that me and a dear friend of mine, brother from another mother, Red, we always make fun of this particular scene. There's a scene where this security guard named George, I'm calling him a security guard. I think he's a legit cop in the movie, but yeah, he's like a transit cop. So he's in a situation where he can't walk, he can't move, he's stuck, and the water is rising, and he is about to you know, go underwater, and he's also losing his own hope. Like he's running out of reasons to keep fighting to stay alive. So Sylvester Stallone can't seem to get him unstuck. So he goes into one of the trunks and he pulls out this rubber tube from an engine, and he blows it out, he cleans it up, and he puts it in his mouth and tells him to breathe, because you know, the rubber tube is gonna be in his mouth just in case he ends up going underwater and he can't breathe underwater, so just breathe through the tube. So he starts coaching him and chanting to get him to breathe. And the way he does it, Sylvester Stallone, it's so funny that you can't help but make fun of it and you know, quote it. And we quoted it for years. So he sticks the tube in his mouth, and the guy refuses to even try. So Sylvester Stallone starts yelling at him, "Come on, George, breathe! Come on, breathe! In, out! Come on, George!" He's yelling at him. And Sylvester Stallone already has a very distinctive, almost comical voice sometimes in these types of situations, you know. And I feel bad because I know Sylvester Stallone has always wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, and he never really was. You know, even when he did Copland, people praised his performance, but they still didn't take him seriously as an actor. He wasn't even nominated for that movie. Years later, he would get nominated for Creed, and he would win the Golden Globe for Creed, playing Rocky Balboa, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Daylight is definitely one of those movies where it's just like, it's super bad, but if you let it go, you can truly enjoy the film and have a good time with it. It is 90s cheese to a T, and in that sense, it's perfection. So I'm almost home. I didn't realize I've been talking for 22 minutes, so I'm done now. I'll see you guys later. God bless y'all. I love you guys. Have a good day. Bye.